Hello, what about you? I'm Andy, and I like to build stuff from anything I can find, really. So if that sounds like something you fancy, stick around. This episode, I'll plan on building some Halloween spiderbots. But before we get into that, here's a build from one of my Patreon supporters, Jack. This is a cracker wee bot, and it's Jack's first scratch build, which is good to hear. And really nice use of spray bottle parts and other bits and pieces. And he has put in a request for a beetle bot, and even sent in a sketch, a design sketch. So nice one, Jack. I look forward to getting onto that in a future build. So as I record this, there's only a few days left till Halloween, so I thought I'd try my hand at a Halloween themed build. And these are some spooky faces, or well faces that I would carve on a pumpkin, and I thought I'd give them some spider legs and make like a sort of spider pumpkin bot type thing. It's like a wee prototype that I knocked up. But that's the idea anyway. And I want to try a wee experiment with some hot glue. So I've got one of those flickering tea lights. So I'm going to plaster it in hot glue and see if I can come up with some sort of ghost or slime type monster. Alrighty, so for the body of the spiderbot, I'm going to use these bottles. I've collected up a load of them, so I might as well start using them up. And they're just a nice wee size. So I'm gonna just cut the threaded part off, just to make them a wee bit shorter and a bit less obvious, like wee bottles. And just use my Stanley knife for that. The plastic's soft enough just to chop it off with a Stanley knife. And then I've got some aluminium wire and some sort of fuzzy wool, and I just twisted it together in my drill. And it's gonna make pretty cool sort of fuzzy legs. So the idea is I'm gonna take my super glue. I've just sort of drawn out a wee face on some cardboard here. Just to try and demonstrate, because it's going to be quite fiddly. And then I've got my baking powder and just a wee bit of glue laid out. And I'm going to take my toothpick and I'll just dip it into the glue and kind of use it like a pen. I'll just trace out this face. You'll probably notice in the cardboard the glue will bleed quite a lot, and it'll sort of spread out, but it'll not do that on the plastic. So yeah, just trace out the face. On the bottles I'll just do it freehand instead of drawing it out first. And then just put a wee sprinkling of baking powder on, and then I set it to the side and leave it dry for a wee bit, and then put another layer on top. And you can kind of build up texture with the baking powder and the glue. You can kind of see it on the card that the card has kind of absorbed all the glue, so it's not really sitting as proud as it would do on plastic. But yeah, just keep carefully adding layers, and you can really build up some nice forms. Here's a few I've done earlier here. I know some of it's a wee bit hard to make out, but when I paint this and add a wash, all these details will really pop. And just to try and give the legs something to grip to, I've stuffed the bottles with some tinfoil, just so when I stick that wire in there, it's got something to grip. It's just not kind of floating in space. So same as the cardboard, I'll just take my toothpick. It's already coated in glue. It seems to make it easier. The sort of glue flows down it a bit better. And take a fresh bottle. I'm just going to carefully dot out a circle and then hit it with some baking powder. And then what I really should do is leave it to one side just for a few minutes. We work on maybe another one just to let this dry. But if I'm careful, I'll be able to go straight in and just go back over the top of it again carefully. Hopefully the camera's picking that up. You can see with that wee circle there with a wee bit of texture. And I'll just go back over it again carefully and do the same thing again. Hit it with a baking powder. And then that should do it. Sometimes I go back and add a sort of third layer if I want it to really stand out. But for this one I'm just going to go for a couple of simple circle eyes and a sort of big wide ghost mouth. So while I'm doing that, here's just a fantastic droid build from Gamey Builds on Instagram. And I actually approached him about showing this. I had to ask permission and he was happy enough. But yeah, I just had to share this. Just brilliant build. The main ingredient for this one was old pens, old Pilot G2 pens, and apparently they're hard to come by. And as well as that, there was paper clips and just other bits and pieces of discarded stationery. So nicely done, man. Like I said, really cool build. Really like this one. I'll leave a link there for Gamey Builds Instagram in the description, and you can go check it out. And thanks very much, man, for letting me share this. I really appreciate it. And don't forget, if you're working on any projects or builds or anything yourself, feel free to send them in. I love sharing them. Alrighty, So I've got a couple of faces finished here. Hopefully you can see them a wee bit better now. And then just for a wee bit more variety, I built a spiky version. I just used the base of the bottle, you know, the threaded base that I cut off the bottle, and stuck it on the front. And then I cut some spikes just from a plastic tube from a spray bottle. So they make pretty good spikes. And so yeah, I really like this version. I'll definitely be using this design for other things. It's really cool. And then I've got my legs here. This is just the armature wire twisted up with some of this fuzzy wool. And this was 100% Mel's idea, so full credit to Mel for this cracker idea for legs. So yeah, just twisted them up, put them in pairs and bent them in the middle and just pinched them together so they'll fit inside the bottle. And then use my wee pokey tool just to make things a bit easier. And then the tin foil inside, it should give the glue something to grip to and just make it all a bit more solid, you know. And then I'll put some baking powder down here after the glue as well, just to make it all a bit more solid and make sure those legs aren't going to come out. So I'll get these all glued up and set them to one side, and then I'll maybe take my tea light and try this experiment with the hot glue gun. So yeah, I've got this it's just a cheap tea light from the pound shop, one of these wee flickering tea lights. Just checking it works here. I know I wasn't really planning on sharing this, but I've already got my phone set up on the tripod, so I might as well just keep recording. But to be honest, I'm not really happy with the results, but I'll share it anyway here. You can see what happens. So I basically made a lollipop out of some tin foil and some baking paper, and then stuck it into some blue tack, and I'm just going to cover that in hot glue. And that's hopefully going to make a dome that I'm going to be able to put over the tea light, and then just build on that. I was thinking along the lines of Slimer from Ghostbusters. So I've just drew out some sort of shapes on another piece of baking paper here, just sort of shapes that I think I might use for eyes, and a few sort of circles that I think I might use for building with. You know, like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm just seeing what happens. So I'll set those to one side, and then I'm just going to make some strips. I'm thinking maybe for making a mouth, or just for building up the structure a wee bit. So that's everything well cooled down. I'll just get this peeled off the baking paper, and then I can see about removing the lollipop from inside this blob of glue. I should be able to just put a wee slit in it here, and this should pop out alright. And yeah, like I was saying, my intention with this glue dome, or this blob, is to place it over the bulb on the tea light, and then it won't interfere with the tea light, and it should give it a nice sort of glow. Okay, that's not looking too bad. That's good and blobby. And it's gonna fit over there. I'll trim some of this stuff off the base probably, but yeah, that's gonna fit over nicely, and probably won't be able to see it in this light, but it should give it a nice sort of glow, and a flickering glow, hopefully anyway. So I've got all my bits laid out, and I've trimmed this a wee bit around the bottom just so it fits nicer onto the top of the tea light here. And first things first, I suppose you'd stick it to the tea light and start from there. And then I'm just going to plaster it. I'm just going to plaster the whole thing, and just to build it up a wee bit more, and try not to melt that dome. And I'll just add a layer, and then leave it to cool for a wee while, and then add another layer, and just try to make some sort of blobby shape that I can stick these eyes to. So this is after a few layers, and it's still a wee bit soft, but it's dry enough to pick up. And yeah, so far I'm happy enough with it. It's sort of this shape that I'm after. It's not doing exactly what I want to, I suppose, the glue. And the tea light's still working, so that's a bonus. But yeah, the glue's a lot harder to work with than I thought. It's really not doing what I wanted to, as far as just sort of flowing over edges and stuff. But I'll keep going. I want to put some sort of mouth on it, some sort of gaping hole anyway that represents a mouth. So I'll use these strips. I'll stick these strips on one way or another just to form some sort of mouth, and then I'll choose a nice shape just for the eyes. I've got a few to choose from here, but something like this, that's the plan anyway. But I'll keep going. I'll maybe add another layer of glue first, and then stick the mouth on and see how that goes. Alrighty, So after another layer of glue and getting the mouth stuck on, and then another layer of glue, and this is what I'm working with. It's getting there. Like I said, I'm not quite happy with the shape. I don't think I'm going to add arms. I was thinking about trying to add arms, but I don't think that's going to work. So I'll see about getting these eyes stuck on somewhere in around there. They don't have to be perfect. I mean, they could be sliding off his face if they want to. It is just a sort of blobby monster thing. And just to make sure I don't burn myself, I'm using my scissors there to press the eye on. And yeah, that's about it. I'll get the eye stuck on, and I put a wee detail on his head. It's like a wee blob that I found on the mat. And yeah, I wouldn't say I'm happy with it. I mean, he's alright. It's not exactly how I pictured it in my head. The glue was a wee bit harder to work with than I thought. But, you know, you gotta try these things. And I thought I might as well share the process. So here's about the best shots I could get of it in the dark. It's best filmed in the dark. You know, I mean, you can see that light. To me, if the shape and the form had been a bit better, and that light could have worked really well. So yeah, if you're any good with hot glue, give it a go yourself, and send me some pics, because I'd love to see it done well. Well, forget about that and never speak of it again. So back to the Spiderbots. But before I do anything else, I should really take a minute to thank my Patreon supporters. So a big thank you to Luke, Cooper, Matt, Barry, David, Voxelbox, Richard, The Craftsman, Heidi, Wes, Maggie, Matt, Sean, Cavo, Alice, Helena, and last but not least, Jack. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So for these legs, I want to make them a bit gnarlier just and put a spike on the end of them. And I think the best material for the job would be some milliput. You probably could use some just air dry clay, but I've got some milliput, so I'm going to use that. And I'll just mix them up and just make some sort of like teeth or spikes. Something like this. Here's some I prepared earlier. And yeah, just rolled them out and just poked a wee hole in them with my pokey tool just to make them a wee bit easier to twist on. And they're still wet, they're not dry or anything. The milliput's still soft and pliable. So I'll just twist these on and sort of mould them to the desired shape, which is just a spike really. And then I'll leave those to dry. And yeah, I'll leave it 24 hours. It says it's drying like 8 hours, but I like to leave it overnight and get something like this, nice and tough. And I got to make some pretty cool legs for the Spiderbots. So I just really need to bend the legs to shape now. I didn't want to do it before adding the milliput just because I wasn't sure how long they were going to be. So I'll just put some knee joints in, just bend them to whatever way I see fit really. And then I think to make the knees just a bit stand out a wee bit more, I'm going to take some of that wool and just wrap it around the knees a wee bit, just like this. Just to bulk up those legs a wee bit. I think that looks pretty cool. And that's about it really for these guys. I just need to give them some primer, and then I'll give them a pretty simple paint job. And this is them just with some grey primer. And then what I did was I took the red oxide and just gave them a light dusting of the red oxide primer from below. And that just gives them a wee bit of shading just to show off some of those details. And I've actually made 8 of these guys in total. I haven't finished all of them yet. I'm waiting on the milliput to dry on some of the other ones. But my intention is to give 7 of them away. But what I'll do is when they're all finished, I'll post a short video just letting you know how you can enter. I just want to try and say thanks to all my new subscribers and of course my existing subscribers for sticking with me. But yeah, that's about the only way I know how. I'll give some builds away. So yeah, keep an eye out, like I said, in the next few days for a video announcing that. So for now, back to me in the craft room. So there you have it. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful. Any questions or comments, you just know where to go there, down below, work away, and remember, there are no stupid questions here. And thanks again to all my Patreon supporters, and if you want to support my channel and help me make some more videos, there's some links there down in the description. And see you in the next one. Bye.